order the work session for the Columbus City Council and Mayor for February the 2nd, Groundhog Day. I understand we've got 6 more weeks of winter coming our way. And just as a reminder to everybody that's here and tuning in, the work sessions we created to give the council an opportunity to meet before each Tuesday meeting. We always have them the Thursday before a planned meeting on Tuesday. This gives us an opportunity to hear information and discuss things that we might not be able to in preparation for the upcoming council meeting. Council members are obviously not required to be here. Many of them have other things they have to deal with, but we do record this, and we have, like Councilman Beard is zooming in today, so that anything that is discussed here, they can go back and review. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning. So with that, I will also, if you will bow with me, I will open us in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given us to come out and do the business of the city. Thank you for each council member that we have working to do their best to move the city forward in a positive direction. We thank you for the citizens of this great city and all that they do to make this city a wonderful place to be and to live and to raise our families. We ask that you be with us as we make decisions on behalf of these citizens. Help us to always be mindful that we need to work together in a positive manner to move the city forward. In our name we pray. Amen. All right. Council, do y'all have anything you would like to say before we move forward in the agenda? If not, I will ask Mr. Joe Murphy to come up and address the council about what is deemed as gas station heroin, I believe. Is that right?
I have 3 copies.
Okay.
My copy machine wasn't working, but I do have 3 copies.
All right.
I'd like to share. My name is Joe Murphy, and I'm a resident of the city of Columbus. As I travel these convenience stores and talk to these merchants, I'm disappointed that greed overcomes reality of what's been going on with the sale of Zazas in these convenience stores. Young, middle-aged, and older people are addicted to this drug. I'm optimistic that July 1st, Governor Reeves will sign a bill into law that would possess this to be a felony, to possess Zazas, the sale of it or the possession of it. Last weekend, we had an overdose here in Lowndes County. Enough is enough, and if this does not define the state of an emergency for the city of Columbus to take immediate action to promptly remove these products from the stores, effective today. If I could save one life before July 1st, I go to bed at night with a clear conscience. I'm here today, I don't get paid by no one. I got my Heavenly Father in my corner. And I've went to these merchants to say, would you please take them off your shelves? Money's not that important. Life is. And they just kind of smirk at me. These products aren't FDA approved. That's alarming. There's a gas station across from Caledonia School, for example. You know, not saying that kids are going over there, but you don't got to be 18 to buy it. In Alabama, it's a felony. We can come back July 1st. I'm pretty convinced that it's going to be a felony. But from now to July 1st, that's a long way. And if we can save lives, my girlfriend's boy is addicted to Zazas. He takes 3 or 4 a day, the whole bottle. Last week, he couldn't find his cell phone. He says, geez, Mom, I can't find it. He just had it. So I went to a cell phone place over on Chevron over the hill by the mall. Used a little psychology on the guy in there. I said, hey, my kid's boy just was in here with a cell phone. Can I buy it back? He goes, oh, yeah, it's right here, $20. And I shook my head, got out to my car, and I prayed, got sick to my stomach, and I drove off. When you look at common sense and practical, logical reasoning, no one can justify to me that if the city of Columbus, this is to me a no-brainer, a state of emergency, You can get on the phone and call Sheriff Hawkins. Can't speak for him, but I think he would be standing right next to me saying, yes, I agree with that, this as well.
Why do you have him up here?
Sir?
Why do you have him up here with you?
Very busy, and I reached out last week or so, and
If it's as important as you say it is, I don't think he would have been too busy enough to save lives.
well, he's been in the paper, he's self-reported. You can Google and read his comments.
I understand that, but have you talked to the chief also?
I came here a couple days ago, you all were in a meeting, and I got put on the agenda. And listen, I realize you guys are meeting.
I'm not trying to, knock it or anything. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I just think that we're gonna need a little bit more. We need normally start with the chief or either at least have the sheriff here so we can hear something from law enforcement to see, give us something to go on.
I understand that 100%. But Joe Murphy wants to go on record today to say that we're in a state of emergency. And so in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, when we have all these problems as an epidemic, no one can say, well, geez, I never heard this before.
Right.
I'm bringing this to the council and you're right, Steve.
Right. This is my first time hearing about it. So
well, I called you and you didn't.
Well, no, I'm saying that was my first time when you called.
Yeah, and then you wrote the name down.
Right.
You asked me how to spell it.
Right.
So February 7th, I'll get back on the agenda. I'll leave here and try to get a hold of Sheriff Hawkins. I'll talk to the chief, no problem.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. I'll be put back on the agenda on February 7th. I want to put the city on notice right now that we're in a state of emergency, Mayor.
Okay.
We want to save life and we need to take immediate action. That's all I'm saying.
I understand.
So I'll be put back on the agenda. I'll get a hold of Chief Joseph. I'll get a hold of the sheriff.
Okay.
Anyone else that wants to stand next to me and fight the fight. But we need a state of emergency. We need immediate removal. Immediate removal. Not in 3 months. Immediate removal. Okay, thank you so much.
If that's our chief's recommendation, then I'll be happy to go with it, but we need to hear something from.
I can't speak for the chief, but after we talk, I'm confident that he would concur. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Information to review as
You all,
well.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody for what you do here today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, I believe we have some gentlemen here that want to talk to us about waste management, equipment that the city could potentially purchase if we wanted to do our own, take it back in-house again, our own garbage. Okay. And just to be clear, this is different from the proposals that we would be taking from to outsource. This is information that the council can receive in case the city would want to take garbage collection back inside the city's domain. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Jeff Martin with Ingram Equipment. This is Eric Smith, also with Ingram Equipment. And, thank you for the invitation to speak with you. And, we don't have a presentation of any kind. It's really just wanted to be here to, talk through, equipment, any questions you have in terms of equipment, what it looks like, costs, benefits, all those sorts of things. So, really just want to open it up and first understand where you're coming from and what you're looking to achieve.
Well, I think what you could probably tell us is that since the time that the city has been taking on garbage disposal on their own, the trucks and technology has changed quite a bit.
Right.
So if you're prepared to let us know, what that looks like today, what maybe costs are in that, if you know other cities that are using this equipment now, something that will give the council and I to go on as we look forward to whether this is something good to outsource or should we bring it back in-house.
Right, and Eric provided, I guess, a little bit of a laundry list on topics, and I think the first one is probably what you're talking about, where, the traditional route was what we call rear loaders. So those are, garbage trucks with a driver and a crew riding on the back, that will jump off, grab a can, grab the garbage on the ground, load it into the back of the compactor. And then the alternative to that is what we call an automated side loader. And so that is a truck that is, just one person, a driver with basically with an arm that reaches out, grabs the can, dumps it, and sets it back down. So that's really you know, the progression that's happened over the last decade or so in terms of garbage collection equipment. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to both, and I can kind of go through that if you'd like. When it comes to, you know, the traditional rear loader, first of all, you know, the advantages are it's a less expensive piece of equipment, so you can, you know, obtain that equipment at a lower price. It tends to hold, in terms of size and shape, it packs a little more than a side loader does. So to carry the same amount of garbage in a side loader, you'd have to have a little bit larger truck in a side loader as opposed to a rear loader. Rear loader is a little more flexible. Again, you know, a side loader is going to require a very specific can that it can grab. You know, if you have a crew on the back with, you know, running a side loader, they can pick up things on the ground. They can, doesn't matter what size and shape the can is, you know, all of those sorts. You can pick up brush if you want to. You know, you can throw white goods in there, all those sorts of things. So there's a little more versatility there as well. Now the disadvantage is, you know, really the biggest disadvantage is labor, you know, and that is a huge problem for everyone these days. Huge hurdle for us, and I can tell you as an employer, you know, we're all sort of feeling that crunch. So, you know, the side loader is, you know, one driver, one truck, you know, accomplishing the same type of collection. But again, it's got to be in the can, you know, it's got to be the right can. So again, you know, one of the things you'll have to have with a side loader is you have to have, you know, every resident has to have the right can. So if they don't have them, that's an additional purchase. But the efficiencies of a side loader are really evident, you know, when it comes to labor and that sort of thing. But the equipment itself is a little more expensive, you know, on the front end as well. There's a little bit more maintenance required on a side loader versus a rear loader. You know, there's more moving parts with that arm and that sort of thing. So the maintenance expense is a little higher, but again, most of that is typically offset by the labor expense. You know, you'll have 3 with a rear loader versus one, you know, one-man crew. I'm sorry?
What's the average cost in both trucks?
The rear loader, you know, there's a wide range, you know, and it depends on what chassis it's on and all that sort of thing. But a rear loader is going to be anywhere from, say, $225,000 to $300,000. A side loader is going to be $275,000 to $375,000.
How many trucks do you recommend a city has at one time for this type of work? A
Well,
city our
you know,
size,
that all
24,000.
depends on, you know, one, how many days are you gonna run? You're gonna run, you know, 5 days a week, 4 days a week? You know, a lot of times we'll recommend 4. That way you give a 5th day to do preventive maintenance on those trucks. And then, you know, other than that, it's just how many residences do you have? And what it takes to collect that number of residences per week.
And there would be a specific type of trash can that we would have to provide for the.
If it's a
citizens.
side loader,
It's a
yes,
side loader.
that's absolutely right. There's a specific can that allows the grabbers to grab it and hold it securely, dump it, and then return it to the ground.
Does your company provide those cans as well?
We do,
Okay.
absolutely.
How much does one can cost?
In the $60 to $70 range per can. And that usually includes, you know, a stamp of your logo, your city logo on the side, assembly and delivery to the resident.
And what's the life of those containers?
You know, that's a great question. You know, the warranty is typically 10 years. You know, they're pretty durable. Now, again, they get picked up and grabbed, and, you know, when it's cold, they're a little more brittle and things like that. So you can figure on somewhere in the area of 2 to 3% attrition a year, just in terms of maybe damaged wheels and axles and lids and that sort of thing. So you do have to sort of replenish those, you know, annually. But, you know, that 2 to 3% attrition is a pretty good number. And then obviously as you know, add residents or annex areas in, you got to count on additional purchases there.
Mr. Smith, when you and I talked, earlier, I think you mentioned Oxford as being one of your, customers. How
Yes.
many trucks, do Oxford have?
Oxford runs around about 9 or 10 trucks in the location. And they have a combination right now of rear loaders and right now transitioning to side load. So, but they roughly have about 9 to 10 trucks in their fleet.
They run every day, or how do they run? They pick
They're
up,
running
how do they
4 days.
pick up, rather? Do they
Yeah,
pick up
do
once a week or
2 days a week.
2 days a
pickup,
week?
But 4 days total,
2 days a
with
week.
1 day for a maintenance.
What's the solution when somebody puts out stuff in their appropriate can, but they have extra line there?
You know, that's a policy that the city has to decide what they're gonna do. You know, if
Still
you're,
have a combination like you just said, is that the,
well, if it's me and I'm starting from scratch and I decide to go with side loaders, I would make it a policy that it is cart contents only, is what we're gonna pick up. If it's laying on the ground, it's gonna stay there. Otherwise, get a second can. You know, if you need more than one can, then, you know, offer an additional can at a, you know, reduced fee per can is the common practice. But if you're running side loaders, it's not possible for that driver to get out at multiple, you know, very frequently and collect things that are on the ground. So when you make that transition, it's really good to make it a policy of, hey, it's cart contents only. It's got to fit in the cart. And if one cart's not enough, we can provide you with a second cart.
Once you order a truck, how long does it take for them to arrive?
That's the magic question, especially these days. And there's so many variables in there. You know, we've all heard about supply chain for the last, I know I'm sick of hearing about it, but the reality is it's a problem. It has been for over 2 years. Every manufacturer that we deal with on the chassis side, and we deal with all of them, have struggled for, you know, the better part of 2+ years to produce trucks. Because they all use the same transmissions and engines and chips and axles and things like that. And, you know, those suppliers to the manufacturers, you know, it just all runs downhill. They can't get the parts they need to produce the trucks that have been in demand in the last couple of years.
Is your estimate months or years?
You know, again, depending on what chassis, you know, you can live with and we can locate, you know, you can get it within a year. You know, some manufacturers, I would say there's no chance we can get it in a year.
We have a lot of downtown parking, so, they wouldn't be able to pick up on the street if it's going around car.
Right, that's certainly part of
That
it.
would be a problem.
And that's a great point, because often you're gonna have a mixed fleet.
Yeah.
You know, you might run side loaders for, you know, all the neighborhoods and, you know, have a small rear loader that handles downtown. You know, something where you do have a couple guys in a truck that would jump out and grab cans, where there's lots of parking on the street.
Also for dead end and cul-de-sac areas, that rear load will work a whole lot better. Just tight spaces.
Yeah, mixed fleet is a very common scenario to handle those types of situations.
Do you all provide training for the drivers?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
As much as you need. Eric will run it too.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, council? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Absolutely.
Very informative and,
Happy to help. You know, as questions come up, please reach out.
And we'll just love to be a resource for you guys. So when that time comes with any questions that you guys may have, we'll be readily available to answer.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
And just to clarify again, that the city is in the process of, we have an RFP out now for organizations that pick up trash for their businesses. For us, that we would outsource to, this is separate from that. This is information that would be if the city decided to go back to purchasing equipment and doing it ourselves. So this is not part of that RFP process. We won't have the other we won't have folks that are bidding for our services coming to present like this. This was something completely different. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Also, just want to pass this to you as well. This kind of gives you a pretty good rundown of all the product lines that we're doing for, in
Oh, okay.
addition to the garbage truck, so you can pass that amongst your board.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Yep. All right, council, next on our agenda is we're going to look at our radios. Everybody's probably pretty aware that we voted at our last council meeting to move forward on purchasing radios that would bring our police department into the MISWIN work that is throughout the state of Mississippi. In other words, our radios within the city have not been able to connect as well with the county and the fire department as we would like for them to. We've discussed this many times. In fact, we tried to put it in our very first budget of this administration to purchase the radios, and we determined later that we didn't have the funding to do it. So we've been very eager to be able to purchase these radios. And my number one objective was to try to get them into the officers' hands as quickly as we could, right? And so we voted on a state contract with Motorola out of Jackson. And once that article came out, rightfully so, Teltec, our local vendor who we've been working with for quite some time, asked us if they could have an opportunity to come back to us and talk about what they could potentially offer for the city as well. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring them in today at our work session to discuss what options they have through their product, which is Kenwood, is different from Motorola. And then in fairness, we have the Motorola reps here too out of Jackson in case the council has any questions. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Teltec and y'all can come up and give us your presentation. Any questions from the council before we get started?
I'll pass these out.
Thank you, Ms. Pat.
Okay, my name is Wes Golden. I'm a partner along with Ralph McLean at Teletech Communications here in town. I thought the first thing to do is we kind of need to back up just a touch and maybe see exactly what all we're talking about. So first off, let's talk about how MISWIN came about and what it is. If you go back 2005, a little before 2005 is when it started, but Katrina in 2005 brought about some necessary adjustments that needed to be made for the state of Mississippi. It was real hard for agencies who had their own systems to talk amongst themselves and to work together. So the state proposed the MISWIN system, which was federally had a grant for that. And this allows for interoperability between all agencies. Here in town, you'll be able to, it'll be better for the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, Police Department, as well as surrounding counties, Clay County, Oktibbeha, Monroe. When they decided to do the MISWIN, it went to they're using what's called the P25 standard. What this allows, and this will be on the first page on the left, this allows for, it's a set of standards for digital radio, and it allows multiple vendors to supply products and services to the communication system users. So this allows for multiple vendors to supply multiple This allows for multiple vendors to supply multiple radios. So no matter if somebody on the coast has a Tate radio or somebody in Tupelo has a Harris radio, these radios will all talk to each other. And here's a list of, which will be on page 2 in your folder, of the approved Wireless Commission radios. Actually, it'll be in the next unstapled part. Teletech is for P25 systems, we sell Kenwood and Viking radios. The standards are the same for every radio brand. Once you get, basically, you're talking option features is probably the main difference. My wife has a heated steering wheel in her car. I do not. This is the radio I'll be proposing today, which is the Viking VP5000 series. This is the same series of radio, not this model, but the Viking is the same series that the fire department now carries. And this exact same radio is what the sheriff's department here in Lowndes County is using as well. It's lightweight, comes with all the features that would make them identical to what the city fire is using: GPS, Bluetooth, 3-watt power, multiple zones. The beauty of the MizWin system is that there are 40 different statewide talk groups. The main one in this area is labeled as R5 SE Common. So at any point, R5 SE Common is monitored both by the city and the state. There's a radio here at 911 that monitors it, records it, so at any time the police department can call in, get 911, talk to the sheriff's department, talk to the fire department. Oh, and please feel free, I kind of get on a roll sometimes, so you can stop me, ask questions. Also have our senior tech, Kurt Gale, here with us today, who he hates for me to say he's an expert, but believe me, he is. As you go through the pamphlet I gave you, you'll see that there's all the different specs for the portable and the mobiles. The specs I was given was for 60 portables and 6 base station radios. The 6 base station radios, I assume, would be inside the Columbus Police Department, but there will be a need for 2 additional radios to be mounted at the E911 office. After speaking with Ms. Lawrence, the city is responsible for supplying these radios, and then they will handle the integration with the antenna systems and the Zetron, the console unit itself. Kenwood also has what's called True Voice. Basically, this is your noise suppressor, so it breaks down. There's microphones on both the front and the back. Breaks down what's human voice, what's not human noise, takes out the ambient noise to give you a clearer sound. Teletech's local. We're a local dealer. I was born here, I was raised here, graduated from Columbus High in the mid-90s. As a local dealer, it gives us some certain advantages. Problems arise almost every week with different vehicles, radios, antennas. We're a short drive away. We're familiar with the city and the county. We do all our programming in-house. Anytime anything happens, firmware updates, we're a phone call away, or just a short drive down 45. Some of the other things is with this unit, Kenwood, some of the stuff is compatible. So my proposal would be to, of course we want to get all new, but the microphones, the leather holsters, the chargers, all those are compatible. So now we've got a closet full of spares if we need them or whatnot. And also I would even be willing to buy back the existing radios that you have now. I have price proposals as well, if y'all would like to see those. I have a proposal for what I got for the 60 portables and the 6 base stations. I also have a proposal for the 2 at 911. And then I went a step further and said, well, let's see what the city really needs and what that would cost. And so I also have a proposal kind of based off a quote I did last year, which is for 60 portables, 52 mobiles for vehicles, as well as the base stations and the 911 system as well. Any questions for me?
Any questions? Chief, any questions? In the packet, is there a price comparison for the council to review?
I can present that if you don't present all the prices here today.
Would do you remember the prices that you voted on before, what that cost was gonna be and everything? Are y'all prepared, Motorola, are y'all prepared to talk about those prices? Okay. Do y'all wanna hear the price comparisons, council? You do? Okay, yes.
Four, buttons there.
You'll notice on the first one, it's 2 pages front, and you'll see 60 portables on the first one, and then there's 60 base stations. What I'm proposing is the radios themselves, plus you'll see phase 1 and phase 2, which is required licenses. A high cap 3400 milliamp battery, the charger, the belt loops, the leather cases, the remote speaker microphones. You'll also see I've included DES multi-key encryption. DES is a 56-bit encryption, which is already used here by the fire department and the sheriff's department. I believe for better interoperability, this is the best way to go. It'll also come with GPS, Bluetooth, instant replay recording, so you can go back and listen to the last transmissions, as well as voice recording and programming. If you look on the second page, I've also listed, these come with a standard 3-year warranty. I've also listed an option for a warranty extension of 2 years, which is available through Viking. Also on the second page, I have the 6 base station radios listed, same options as the portables, but you'll also see I've included fiberglass hard mount antennas, which would be better where the police department is located, as well as the power supply and the mounting hoods. I've broken it down by EPL price and then what the city's price would be for that. Also on the second one, on the second page, I listed the 2 individual base radios that will need to be at E911. And like I said, Ms. Lawrence says they will handle the integration as well. And then the third set of specs was just, I was just wondering to myself, if we wanted to outfit the whole city and have everything that the police department needs. I don't know that this is an estimate, this is a guess on my part on numbers for the portables and the mobiles, but I've listed that as well. I believe that Teletech can offer a very good product at a very good price, and the service that we'll give the city, I believe, is unparalleled.
Okay, just so everybody's clear, both of these products are on state contract, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Jeff, do you want to explain how we're able to do it in this process without doing bids and that type of thing? Would you like to?
Yeah, when an item is for sale on state contract, you don't have to bid because the state has negotiated the price for the whole state. So it's a question of, if the features are all available on state contract, there's nothing unique, then it does not have to be put out for proposal.
Why would you not be?
You can do it anyway, and reverse auction would be how you would go, if you wanted to have it for competitive bidding. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't know if, most vendors don't want to go below state contracts, so you might not get a bunch of people wanting to bid, but you could certainly try, and you might get a better price if you did.
I'm just thinking about, the whole process. We've already voted one way, and then now we got a local band coming in, and, it seemed like we should have been talking to both of them at the same time.
Should have,
I don't
yeah.
know who was initial in putting this together, but I think it should have been done a little different, because it doesn't seem like it's fair to either one of them.
Well, yeah, that's what I was
As far
trying to
as the price.
explain. I will take the blame for that, for sure, because, my goal was to try to get these radios in as quickly as possible. And when we discovered we had $155,000 in Jackson, which we didn't know we had, and we've been sitting out here without these radios for so long, I was trying to move the process as quickly as we could, not even thinking about how it would affect the work that we've done with y'all for many, many years. And so once the story came out, they reached out to us, and I think you reached out to council members too, and said, hey, we can offer a good product and would like for y'all to know what we can offer. And so in my mind, regardless of whether we had taken a vote or not, I wanted to make sure y'all had all the information, regardless of whether I did it I should have done it better. It was my fault. I was just trying to get the radios as quick as possible. But once I realized that there was the entire process, I felt it was important for y'all to have all the information to know how you voted. So that's why we're here today. And then we thought this would be a fair way for, and I believe that the council members that you spoke to were open to hearing what y'all had to offer. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So, Motorola, any questions for Kenwood?
Do you have any, write-up on possible lease approach to this versus
Yes, sir.
cash purchase?
Let's see.
And do you have anything on the buyback price for the current radio?
No, I don't. I believe what I've done, and of course it'll vary. Usually like on a mobile radio, I'll buy back for $100 portable, a little less, $50, $75 a piece. But when you're talking about, depending on how many, possibly $6,000 to $8,000 that would be credited on this. I cannot find the lease options that I have, but I will get that for you.
Okay.
One of the other things I think is important for the council to consider when we're looking at the products and what we're purchasing is that we are also in need of radars. We have 2 in the city right now, only 2. And we know the speeding issues that we have in the city. So, well, I think they already know. That's why they're speeding the way they do. We also are getting prices on the radars. And so as we're looking at all these options of cost and things, I think that's something we have to keep in mind too, is that we can trying to get everything that the chief needs for the police department to be able to do everything we need in the city. Do y'all have any more questions for this group?
I just believe it's a whole lot easier dealing with someone local. There's never been a time where the fire department or the police department or sheriff's department's ever come in where we haven't gotten to them first. And it's either instantaneously, we keep spares and loaners, so if anything major does happen, you're in, you're out, that keeps going. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Hughes, have you been pleased with the radios?
Yes, ma'am. Very pleased. We went through the reverse bid process, and the radios were purchased with AFG grant funds. Yes, ma'am.
I'll close this out for you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Kenny Jones. I am the state account rep for Motorola Solutions. So I work directly for Motorola out of our Flowood, Mississippi office. I handle the state contract for Motorola, which is 3429. It is a sole source contract issued to Motorola as the winning bidder for MISWIN. So MISWIN is a Motorola system managed by our system manager, Wade Ray, who just moved from Norfolk, Virginia. We have 3 technicians that work directly for Motorola. One lives in Oxford, one lives in Brandon, one lives on the Gulf Coast. We partner with our channel partners, Jackson Communications. Bill Roberts is the owner of Jackson Communications. They are our force multiplier. So there's a couple things that I would like to clear up. One, a radio is not a radio. Our 84% market share in state, local government is because police departments, fire departments have chosen Motorola because of the standards that we use. Everybody builds a P25 radio. We go above and beyond that. So, for instance, there's things that you can do with the radio that we've quoted that nobody else can do because it's a Motorola radio on a Motorola radio system. So one of those things is called Smart Connect. So you have buildings in this city that may or may not have issues with coverage on MISWIN. We've partnered with you guys, got you loaner radios from the state to check that, but you can't check every building. The radios that we have the ability to connect to MISWIN through a known Wi-Fi network. So you can program in a known Wi-Fi network into the radio, and for an additional fee, that particular officer, that particular SRO can turn that feature on and talk over Wi-Fi back into the MISWIN radio system. Nobody else can do that.
Let's stop right there for 1 second, 'cause I do want to make sure everybody understands about the loaner radios that we currently have. Y'all did work with us. Those are owned by the state. Y'all made us aware of the fact that because when we were looking and before we knew we had money to purchase these, they had offered us the opportunity to use those radios. The state of Mississippi maintains extras that way, so we have had those radios here for how long now? That the police department's been using? I'm sorry? About a month, yeah. So that's how those radios came to. I just want to make sure everybody was clear on that we do have those radios right now that our officers have been using. And it's, yes, go ahead.
So the other thing is that we have talked to the police department to identify what they really need. We have 8 to 10 different model of radios, but we talked to the chief, figured out what specs that he needed, what he needed those to do, and have quoted those radios. Do we have less expensive radios? Yes, but not always cheaper is total cost of ownership cheaper. We don't have a lot of competitors that can say that they have radios in people's hands for 10 years plus. If you get stopped by a trooper today, he has a radio that he got in 2008. If you partner or are with a MEMA representative, the same thing. If MBI comes, if MBN comes, every single statewide agency is using a Motorola radio. They're not the same, just like the car you got in to come here today is not the same. There is a difference when you buy a $20,000 car and you buy a $50,000 car. That's just what it is. Let me also address DES.
Cars.
Absolutely.
That's something
but
the city
that's
has to
why we've
consider.
got a state contract.
Right.
We provide an extremely good discount on our Motorola radios. We have extended that state contract through 2027. So the price that we're quoting you today, we will guarantee you that in 2027, you'll still pay that price.
Now, y'all are Jackson Com. Is there any other area in the state that does this as well? I mean, is there one?
Yes, so we have ICI that handles our North Mississippi.
Where are they
dirt for
located?
us. They're located in Batesville and Tupelo.
Okay.
And then we've got.
And they're part of y'all? Y'all the same?
Motorola works with our channel partners. I work with all of them. And then we have Team 1 that is on the Gulf Coast.
Well, the only reason I said that is because Tupelo's a little closer than Jackson. Does that factor in at all? I don't know, I'm just
From an
asking.
not really, Bill and JacksonCom maintain the statewide radio system. You have towers in this county and in this city that are MISWIN towers.
Gotcha.
The JacksonCom team is showing up when anything happens. Motorola dispatches them. They've also got customers in and around all of this area. But let me address the DES encryption.
Okay.
Right? DES encryption was invented in 1975, and in 2002, it was no longer accredited as a standard. It was replaced with what we call Advanced Encryption Standard, which is AES 256. That is what we have quoted you. I don't think anybody today wants to buy a car and put a 1975 engine in it and pay today's price. DES encryption is not a current standard by the federal government.
Does everybody understand what that is? Because I do not. I don't have a clue.
So that is the ability to talk on your radio system without a local citizen purchasing a radio, a scanner, and be able to listen to what the police department
this
says.
encryption is part of the product that y'all, it's within the radios, correct?
It is a software enhancement that we make to the radios that fully protects the channel that the police are talking on.
How are y'all encrypted, Chief? The fire department?
So
How are y'all encrypted? Do y'all have what he's describing?
we have certain channels that are encrypted, and that was done through our contact with Teltec.
But is it DES encryption or is it AES?
I would defer that question to Teltec.
Some radios have AES and DES, the majority have just DES. AES is the current standard, and it is not proprietary. That in 1999, it took a college student 22 hours to crack DES. That's in 1999. For a fee today, you can go online and ask to have someone crack your DES encryption. You can pay a fee online today. Or you can buy a piece of equipment that will do it for you. But I just want to say that.
So you're saying that our fire department and sheriff's department could be easily hacked into?
Well, the sheriff
Somebody
department, are they
would
using
want to
what are the
have to
sheriff
do it?
department using?
Kenwood.
They using Kenwood also?
Yeah, somebody would want
The
to do
county
it, but
volunteer fire department
It-
uses,
it's sort of like, if you're the police department, you're not going to give the sheriff your primary channel. If you're the sheriff, you're not going to give the police your primary channel. There is a channel that you would go to for mutual aid. It is programmed into every radio that's on the statewide radio system, which is about 57,000 today.
And it is not encrypted.
And it is not encrypted, so everybody can talk to everybody, and that's how you would do mutual aid in case you have something happen here. That's not what we say, that's what the state says.
okay. Any
So-
questions? Are y'all following this?
I was gonna ask Dwayne a question right quick. On the radios that you have, do we have any problems in any buildings? I know they were talking about the difference in that. Do we have any problems?
Yes, sir, we do. We did a study when we got the radio, we identified those buildings, where we do have, reception problems. They were going to be addressed, first and foremost through legislation with those buildings where we're required to get a repeater system to handle that. And then we have another, we've identified those areas, we have another channel that we go to, that gives us better coverage in those areas. So that's just to get us by until we get a more permanent solution.
Now, since we've had the new radios though, have we made that aware to other problems, aware to other places, aware to the chief or whoever been testing the other radios to see if we have the same problem there?
To make sure I understand your question right, you're saying the areas that we identified having
Are you saying
reception
it's-
problems, have I
Right,
shared
did
that?
we
Does
try,
it-
did we
does
try
the
the new
police
radios? Did we try the new radios in those in those spots?
Yes, sir, that, we did that.
No, not yours, the Motorola ones.
That, I can't answer that because I don't have the Motorola radio. That would be.
I was just interested to see if we would have the same problem with the same radio, with different radios.
The police chief is aware of those areas. Have we used
Yes,
any?
sir, we're aware of those issues, we haven't had any issues, the officers driving around. We've had officers that live out towards, the county, that, I can't remember, forgive me, but there's a subdivision that he lives in that's close to the state line, and he still has good reception, keying up, without the issue.
Have y'all gone into any of the buildings?
Yes, sir, we worked a high school game, I worked in my basketball game myself, no issue. Went into Baptist Hospital where it's really been an issue with our other radios, but we haven't had an issue. The only issue that we really had was when officers tried to use another holster that wasn't made for that radio, and it would bump a button and switch it to a different channel. But other than that, with it, the ones with using the proper cradle, we haven't had any issues.
So are those the same buildings that y'all do have issues with the Kenwood? Is the ones he's saying that these don't?
I can't answer that question. I do have a list of those buildings, and I can share that, but, I can't answer that question.
So the buildings y'all been in are different from those, but you are aware that there are buildings where there is?
Well, as far as I know, Joe, and Joe, you might want to talk about this. Joe started his testing process prior to the officers testing, and he had a list of all those, and he went around to all those locations that he knew of. And I can't speak for what he did or didn't know, but I know he went around.
Yes, sir, we went around to.
Get the microphone.
Okay, the microphone. I got one right here. but-
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Got one. That's a different one.
It wasn't good.
We took an actual police car and drove all over to different locations around town to test it and, to test the radio to make sure it would reach out of the car, and it did. We took it to to places that were known, problems like Walmart and the hospital, but we also took it out to the gun range, and even out to the Lock and Dam, some other places that were, known to be issues, and it all worked from inside the police car, because that was a concern, was that, standing outside is different coverage than inside a metal police car, so we took a real police car and they worked fine.
I don't think that answers.
Hmm?
Is that answering the question of the buildings that Chief Hughes is speaking of?
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that there are places in certain buildings in this town where you've got your radio and it doesn't work. I don't know from what y'all said if you've walked in with the Motorola's in those same spots and see if they work, and they do. Have you done that?
The two buildings that you mentioned, Baptist Hospital being one, Walmart being another, and then the steel mill. And as I said, those are the places, with just few that the fire department identified.
Is that when you're inside the buildings or just near
That's
them?
when we are inside the building.
Joe, did y'all go inside the building?
Yes, sir, we went inside and worked just fine.
You went into all those he just mentioned
Yes, sir.
with the Motorola's, and they worked?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, what we did, when we took it out, the primary concern was if it would reach from within the car, and it did, because the car was like a little building, and that worked.
Do y'all have problems working from the truck in those buildings?
No, sir.
Okay, but you did go inside too? You didn't just sit in the car and try them, you went in the buildings and tried them?
We went in all buildings.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And also, Mr. Mayor, what we did, we took, I applaud Joe for what he did, but we took the radios and put them in the officers' hands. And each supervisor is responsible for giving myself back a list of issues that they're having, whatever building they went into. We went into the hospital several times, like I said, for different calls for service. Worked a high school basketball game. I went there myself twice and didn't have any issues with the radio. And I didn't know about the steel mill, so that's something else. By the time I leave here, I can have you an answer by lunchtime about the steel mill. I didn't know about that building, but if Joe's already been through there, then I'll be happy.
Oh, I know, I thought you were referencing to him to tell us because he tested it for the officers. But you're saying the officers have gone in those buildings?
Yes.
Is there any spots that they don't work that you're aware of?
No, sir, we haven't had one complaint. Only complaint we've had was them bumping the button, being new to the radio. That was it, and they didn't have the proper holder. If they had the holder that was provided by Motorola, they wouldn't switch channels.
And yours is only the steel mill and Baptist, was the only spots?
No, so I have a list of that I'll be more than happy to share. But there again, we address that by going off our main channel, and we go to another channel, and we don't have those issues.
Oh, so it's just flipping the channel and it works?
Correct.
If I may though, I don't think it's necessary for the police department to go to the steel mill, because we don't operate out there. The fire department has mutual aid outside the city limit, but the steel mill is in the county.
Yes.
Well, I guess if you had an
Emergency, you might go.
and you had to go help somebody.
Maybe.
So,
another-
last thing is, there's a difference between the 3429 sole source contract and an EPL.
Okay, did y'all get that?
Okay, the EPL requires anything over 50 grand to receive 2 bids. 75, I'm sorry, 2 bids.
Did everybody get that? Because I did not say it all the time.
The EPL 3748,
3744.
44, I'm sorry, 3744. If you get a quote that's anything over $75,000, you have to get a quote from somebody else. The 3429 is a sole source contract awarded to Motorola by the state of Mississippi when they awarded the build of the state of Mississippi's radio system to Motorola. We can sell, in fact, I sold $22 million upgrade to the state of Mississippi radio system last year on 3429.
So you're saying we would not, if we went with an EPL, we would not have to do a reverse
So
auction
if you did
bid?
you don't have to do the reverse auction. If it's over 75,000, you just got to get 2 quotes and you can purchase it off of that.
I need to see the authority for that.
That's ITS.
Well, you said you still had to get.
The Wireless Communication Commission, the WCC handles the 3429 contract. But again,
But you still have to get 2 quotes. That's
on
what you said.
3429, it's a sole source. You can, if you guys want to buy Motorola radios off of 3429, you can do that today.
What is the sole source feature
So you don't have
that
What-
makes it a sole source?
The contract.
The contract in and of itself.
When we signed the contract in July of '07 with the state, the ITS, the EPS, that contract had to be offered to every state and local agency in the state. Where there were 8,000 radios purchased on the front end, and Columbus wants to buy one, Motorola had to sell it at the same price. If you bought towers, if you bought microwave, professional services, anything that's on that bid, and it's on the website, and the Exhibit G governs that. So we're held to prices that we had in 2007. Okay, so the state goes through the process of, if we give a quote to Columbus, like we have, then it has to go to WCC for approval. And we turn our pricing in, and they look at this pricing and say, yep, that's right. And then, they have to have the minutes from the board, they have to have the board minutes, and they have to have our pricing. And then the first Thursday, like today they're meeting, first Thursday of each month, they take anything that's over $100,000, they have to look at it and approve it. So that's where that one came from.
So just so I'm clear, are y'all both with Jackson
So
Communications?
I work for Motorola Solutions.
Okay.
Bill Roberts and Jackson Communications is a Motorola channel partner, but this is sold by Motorola Solutions on Motorola paper.
And
We're
so-
manufacturers rep.
And so tell me the difference in us purchasing from Jackson than Tupelo. If there's one closer to Tupelo, what's the difference? Is there anything?
We're the manufacturer's rep for Lowndes County down to Stone County.
Okay.
We're Motorola. I worked for Motorola for 25 years, and I worked every county in the state. I worked on the design of the Missouri system, and I left in 2010 and bought the dealership in Jackson. But we're the manufacturer's rep for this territory. So Motorola has manufacturer's rep that has protected territories. So
So that means we couldn't do Tupelo. Is
if
that
you want to
right?
buy from Motorola, we're the same. You're not
Yeah.
buying
But you're
from
not closer. That's what we're thinking about. Is Tupelo's a
Yeah, but
little bit closer if we needed
We
something.
maintain your sites up here. So
You-
if they go down at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's us coming.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and
What
by the
if,
way,
what if we have a
whether-
radio breakdown or something? Is it
Well, it's like.
just as close to y'all as Tupelo? Or just as fast? It's not as close, but it's as
I've been up here 4
fast?
times in the last 2 weeks to different places, but the thing I'd like to say is this, most radios, a competitor they would agree, knobs, antennas, that's simple break fix, whether it's a Motorola, a Kenwood, a Harris, if it's internal, they're gonna go back to a depot for repair, okay? What we do with most customers, we handle Rankin County, DeSoto County, Forest County, Jones County, Warren County, Hines County, Rankin County. That's all customers that we take care of. And a lot of these accounts, we work with their personnel. We go in and we teach them how to program, where they don't have to sub that
simple break fix stuff. But a lot of times, these radios are on computers. So, and I'm not just saying Motorola or Kenwood or, most of them go back to depot for repair if it's something, internal. Okay, yeah, we retune them, batteries, we can have batteries overnight, same day antennas up here, okay? So, that's nothing new to us. And let me say this too, and while we're on it. The one thing that we did propose, and I'm familiar with this House bill, the funding that y'all got from the moving
Yes.
violations. I'm familiar, I know when we got that passed back in the 90s. And that was where you would get money, for moving violations.
So what that is we get every time we write a ticket, $3 from the city of Columbus goes into that fund, which is a particular fund for our city to be able to use,
Right.
correct?
So,
Motorola worked with our lobbyists to help pass that, to help all of our state, local governments be able to afford to load on the statewide radio system, right?
but that was a minute ago when that thing passed. That was back in the 90s. Some people have the money in the fund and don't even know it's there. But at any
I think
rate,
a
I'll
lot.
say this. What we did propose on the package that I, gave you, Motorola, Motorola Credit Corp, we can do a tax exempt lease purchase. So our proposal, based on what Chief Daughtry told us he needed, he wanted 66 portables, 6 control stations, and then, yes, dispatch has to add some radios. You have a company based out of Tennessee, Integrated. They put the consoles in for dispatch for 911. They're Zetron consoles. We're familiar with them. We just upgraded Lauderdale County. They got Zetron consoles. So you do have to add a couple radios, okay, to that console to accommodate the police department coming onto the system, okay? But our proposal included all the portables, okay, and the control stations programmed, delivered, along with the training. And we offered a lease purchase, and what that means is if you go with Motorola, then you sign the contract, do the lease, you can do a 48, 60, 72-month lease, whatever you want to do. You would have no money out of pocket for a year. So if you sign the contract today, then February of 2024, your first payment would come due. If you have additional funding that comes up during that term, you can pay it off with no penalty. So that is one thing that we did include in our packet.
Yeah, we did that. Now, Chief, you worked with them when you were in Natchez, correct? So you've worked with these guys before?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've had the pleasure of having, to be honest with you, Mayor, I've had both radios. When I was in Keeler, actually, we had Kenwood radios. And Chief Hughes and I have had this conversation several times. Some agencies that I know are switching to Motorola police departments. He said, Chief tell you, he know all the fire agencies love Motorola. Love Kenwood. I know it's proven, we've used it. As far as relationship, as far as the outsourcing, I haven't had an issue in 27 years while working with Motorola and radio where if it's something major, we're gonna have a couple of extra. We're not gonna have them always, so we gotta ship one off or whatever. That's not really gonna be a big issue. But it's gonna be totally up to you guys.
Can I say one thing too?
Yes.
Kenny mentioned that, if I may. He mentioned other radios. And I don't want to do this. I always say, when I go into the police department or sheriff's department or fire department, it's not my decision. And I hate to say it like this. Sometimes it's not the board of supervisors or the council decision. I look at it as what does this chief or what does this sheriff or what is it, what do they need? And the radios that we're proposing, we've got 2 more levels down. I could drop it $100,000 just changing radios that still give you a submersible radio. Well, it's only 2 minutes, 2 feet or 2 meters, but the radio we're proposing, this thing is like Kenny said, every radio that's in the state agencies, that's what they're using. So.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but the council and I have to be good stewards of the citizens' resources. So, no department head can just pick something that they want, But what we want to do is we make sure that we are able to supply what they need and what's going to make them be successful. And then so this, we could use our limited dollars on all the things that we need. So, I get all that. I mean, I understand
I
that,
understand what you're saying.
but what we're trying to do is just do our due diligence to make sure that we are spending the money as best we can.
Understood.
And a lot of this is very technical, that a lot of us, is not, we're not gonna grasp everything about the radio and what they need. But we do need to try to make an understanding of what the costs are, what the differences are. And I'm sure you can understand, we've got a local vendor that we've been using for years that's here in Columbus, that has a business here. So, I mean, we always just have to, we just want to give them an opportunity to.
So I can understand.
Right,
you know?
right.
Who were y'all contacted by?
Pardon?
Who were y'all contacted by?
What
I actually
authority?
contacted you guys. So I reached out,
To who?
working with the state, because you guys weren't on the statewide radio system. I worked with Bill Buffington, who's the technical advisor for MISWIN. And I said, hey, I'd like to maybe see if we could use some of the state's radio cash to let them use it short-term, long-term, depending on when they could get funding to get them to load on the statewide radio system. So I proactively reached out because
He met
We've
with
got-
me, Jamie, and Jim, and Joe, I thought.
about 2 months, 3
Yeah.
months ago. So
And strictly, in my understanding, was that he was telling us that there were some free radios in Jackson that we could potentially use. I couldn't have told you what brand they were. I was trying to get radios in our officers' hands. That's what I want to stress. And then, it didn't even dawn on me that where we got, I just wasn't thinking that way. That's on my, and
Yeah,
that's
so
why
I
we're
work
kind of here
every
today.
day trying to get as many of our local partners onto the state's radio system so that when things happen, we can all talk to each other, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And usually that's on a daily basis, because I'm sure you guys have stuff happen every single day that you need to talk to the fire department, you need to talk to the sheriff's department, you might need to talk to your trooper. And so we would like to have everybody on that statewide radio system, and I work with our lobbyists to try to make sure we get money at the state level to make this radio system as up-to-date as possible, and that we're constantly improving it.
Kenny mentioned the troopers, we maintain the troop here, so we have 22 employees. MHP, here in Starkville, well, not here in Columbus, but in Starkville, at the troop headquarters. We have to maintain that, so I know it's 2 hours away, but we got 22 folks, in our company. We got 8 techs that are on the road every day, so, anyway.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate your time and
Thank you.
consideration.
Appreciate it.
Let me make one thing clear.
Can you come up here so they can hear you? Just if you come up to the mic so the
folks
can hear you. We got people tuning in.
Yeah, let me make one thing clear. You can take one radio that's not encrypted into a building and it'll work. You take one encrypted into a building and it may not work, simply because it can't hear all the 256 digits it's got to send before it can let you talk a bit.
Well, but your encryption is 56.
Yeah, it's, all right. In one case, it's got here 56, so if you put 256 in it, you're going to make it 15% worse in coverage.
Any other comments?
I was employed by the city of Columbus for 25 years. I was their communications director.
Come on up to so we can be sure.
I was their communications director here for many years. I served on the task forces for 15 years. I have used every brand radio you can possibly think of. I came to Teltec in this business. I work for Teltec now, and I asked them to be a tape dealer because I believed in that product. He said, I'm not going to be a tape dealer anymore. That's okay. Made common sense for me to deal with a dealer that I could go back because I didn't know anything about the state system at the time. Went back to that. The question I have for Motorola, if I'm on R5SE Common on a Kenwood radio and you are on a Motorola radio, will they talk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's clear that up. Those state talk groups, every radio that is sold, that is on the list that's up here,
must be able to talk to each other to be P25, or they wouldn't approve them to put it on there, no matter what brand name. Is that correct?
Has to be.
Okay, so I just want to make sure y'all have the correct information. I get paid the same whether I stay at the office, sit at the desk, and get up here and talk in front of y'all, which I really don't like talking in front of anybody. So, but I want everybody to know that the Kenwood radio must work on the Motorola system. And if Motorola were to stop that, then that wouldn't be a P25 system anymore. A P25 system is a standard saying that every radio must meet this standard to talk on it. Does Motorola have proprietary products? Sure. Does Kenwood? Sure. They all do. If the police department, I'm going to tell you, if you go nothing but AES in that radio, you're going to make a mistake if you want to be able to have the sheriff's talk group at any time that's DES, because that's what it is. That's what it is at the fire department. I don't care what standard you use, but steer them in the right direction to make them successful. If they want to be able to talk to the sheriff's department on their talk group, they will have to talk to them on DES. If you purchase AES and that radio only, you won't talk to the sheriff's department on their DS talk group, correct?
I agree with you.
Okay.
And I'll say this, our radios can do all those encryptions.
I agree.
We can do AES, DES, SSS, get on down. We can do them all.
And that's what I was trying to say, is that
But all I'm
that's
saying
the
is
cheapest
the
customer.
state, I've done this for 37 years. The state mandates that if I go into Columbus, or I go, they'll slap your hand, everybody knows. If we don't go to AES, they're gonna give us a funny look. And I'm surprised DES is still being used.
Well,
I'm
because the
63 years
standard-
old, I sold it when I was in my 30s.
Set by them, it says you can use DES on the state system as long as it's user selectable. They don't care what you use. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect.
No, that is correct.
They
You can
don't
look it
allow
up.
ADP.
Do what?
They do not allow ADP encryption.
DES, what we're talking about. Can you use DES on the state system? Yes, as long as it's selectable.
They will let you use it. The current standard is AES. And I don't want to argue about that, but to answer your question, our radios will do multi-key, do AES, DES. I work with a lot of counties across the state. The sheriff and the police chief typically want their own encrypted channel.
Oh, I agree with that.
They typically want, they don't, this man over here was in Natchez, Mississippi. The sheriff had his encrypted channel, and he had his encrypted channel. And they had a common channel they could talk on. And that's all I'll say.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
And then we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you all.
And Mr. Mayor, I understand the passion here. I hear a lot. I know we have a local vendor, and he's upset. I know he's called and he's vented himself. But one thing about it, me as the chief of police, I have to make sure that my guys are safe, number one. I put things in their hand, equipment that I trust. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not going against our local vendor, but if you look at, our county already bought 200 Motorola radios. They're local, the volunteer fire, they're local, okay? Our dispatch center is bought out of Tennessee. So let's get away from the local. But what I want everybody to understand, I don't want people to get confused about being able to communicate. The state system allows us the opportunity. If we had a disaster here and Chief Hughes got on the state and said we needed help with the fire department, we could switch over to a state channel. He can talk to fire agencies coming from Gulfport. If I needed help, I could switch over to a channel and talk to agencies coming from Gulfport, anywhere in the state coming this way, okay? So the MISWIN system is gonna allow you to do it. I just feel comfortable putting stuff in my officer's hands that I know, that I have proven, that I've worked with, and I know the future that you guys are asking us to do as far as GPS and everything else. I'm not here to, I just want to do the right thing. I want to make sure that my guys are safe, and I want to make sure we put something in their hand that I trust, you know, and also something that we, like he said, the state's had it since 2008. They hadn't changed our radios, okay? I mean, it's a proven record. Now, we're going to go back and forth, but I just want to go on record. I'm not going to be bullied and talked to and all this other stuff about. I just want to make sure our guys, and I'm going to ask the board and the mayor to consider this, make sure our guys have the equipment to make sure they're safe, and that in the next 10 to 15, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, that we don't have to purchase new stuff over again. We want to be good stewards of taxpayers' dollars, so we want to make sure we put something in their hand that's going to work. This is business. They have a business. Motorola has a business. They have vendors all over, but this is what I think the board already voted on it. I agree with the mayor that we needed to make sure that the board have, and he brought it up, that the board needs to have all the information in their hands to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I don't want the public or anybody to think that one radio is not going to talk to the other one on state channel. We're still going to be able to talk to the sheriff's office when we go to Miss Wynn, okay? We're still going to be able to talk to other agencies if we ever need help in the case of a national disaster. We're still, because it's the state system. We're just looking for something that's going to hold us down so that we won't have to worry about this in the next 10 years.
Any other questions or comments? Do what, I'm sorry?
Did you get a price sheet from Motorola?
Do, yeah, we have the price sheet from Motorola, yeah. Yeah, that's what you looked at, the leases.
No, I don't,
Do y'all have the, Jim was asking for the one with the lower prices to compare from Motorola?
We can do that.
Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is that what you're asking for, Jim?
I'd just like to see what they're proposing.
Yeah, he'd like to see the proposal.
We've got the existing proposal that we have provided previously with us today.
Okay, good. Well, but also, but the other ones that y'all mentioned that were lower priced possibly?
We can put that together.
Yeah, that'd be good. Is that what you're asking for, Jim?
No, I was wondering what they brought today.
Oh, well, they brought today was what, same thing that we voted on. I thought you were asking for the other prices since they brought it up. Is it in there? Yeah.
Exactly. Anybody else need a comment? Right.
Comments or questions? I'm sorry, okay. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here.